Good morning, another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have the good people from Eurolink here today with their fantastic Veco product. Let's do it in order as you are on screen with me at the moment. Emma and Richard, hello, how are you both?
Hello, very well, thank you.
Hi Simon, yeah, we're great, thanks. How are you doing?
That was good. Did you just try to do a Mr. Spock's kind of thing there, or was that actually? No. Okay, I didn't know if you were going full geek, full that earlier.
Just a wave.
just a wave. And you got the Kerfuffle gear there. That's fantastic. Clearly, I'm not going to speak to Chris as much because he's not taking the time, energy.
I'm sorry, I'm upside down there. I was going to actually make one, funnily enough. I was going to just colour it in pink like a headband.
Well, but, now you've got me going there. We haven't thought about that, have we? Brilliant. Okay, so Rich, you're CEO of Eurolink. Chris, you're the full title Head of Business Development and Marketing, and
yep.
Emma, Head of New Business. Yep, that's right.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. And in days gone by, Rich, you'd have been throwing mud at me, and I'd have been trying to do the same to you, except you're far too professional, so you always won those pitches. But anyway,
I'm not too sure if we won everyone, but we had a healthy competition in the day, didn't we?
Good. We can talk about those stories around the fire when we're allowed to. Anyway, cool guys. Look, the title of today is Can Veco, your CRM system, make life easier for an agent? If I say yes, do we just stop now and then we can move on, or should we?
Pretty much nailed it, yeah.
Because you know I'm not a detail person, don't you?
You're a big chunker, they call it, don't they? A big chunker.
Big chunker, cheeky get. No one's called me a big chunker yet so far. So obviously, I mean, from my point of view, obviously my previous company there, Eurolink and Veco were very much in that, in that top tier in terms of solution sell, being able to really. Whereas there were some kind of off-the-shelf packages that would do well for single office agencies, you were a very different kind of creature, weren't you, Rich? Do you want to just give us an idea about who is Veco, what is Veco, and give us a bit of the overview on that?
Yeah, no problem, Simon. Look, I guess we were one of the original prop tech companies. Yeah. We've celebrated 30 years this year in business. All we've ever existed for is to provide IT and software solutions for the UK residential property market. It's simple as that. We're privately owned, privately funded, UK owned. We're 26 property professionals, although over a quarter of us have worked client side, which I think is really important and always forms part of our recruitment process. We've got we're just about to hit 200 years of cumulative experience in Eurolink as a team. So hopefully that gives our clients, and both current and future, some level of comfort that we know what we're doing. We've been there before. We've experienced the difficulty of transferring from system to system, and we've always been pretty. We've always been genuine. We've always been honest about the fact that it's not an easy process. It's not an easy transition. And anyone who tells you it is, cut the meeting short, move on, go down your shortlist.
They're selling snake oil, aren't they? And it has always been the case.
Well, look, it's over-promising and under-delivering, and a lot of companies, I think getting away with it's probably a little bit unfair, but I suppose they think, well, once they're in, but it's not what it's about. You start a relationship off like that, it's not going to last ultimately, and people don't forget that.
Do you still get frustrated because there clearly are a number of providers out there that do operate, it seems, on that basis? You see from, you only have to listen to the pitch or see the emails there that they do, liken it to a sticking plaster. Oh yeah, it'll be fine. It's just a couple of minutes discomfort and everything else there. When a CRM system is as important as it is, it has to be the foundation of the business. It can never be as simple as that, can it? In terms of once you look at what is actually involved. I mean, as I said at the top of the show, I'm not a detail person, and I used to see our own project scoping documents, and I couldn't make it past page 3. The amount of whether it's templates, workflow, automation, integration, data, web feeds. It is mind-numbing, isn't it, the amount that you guys have to take into account when moving, and not just the largest agents, even the smallest ones have ticks in the boxes in all those areas, don't they?
Well, take migrations, for example, data migrations. It's probably the single biggest fear when changing systems. And I think that's relative to any size of business, because everyone's data is relative to their company. And it's just as important to each company as well. But I think, again, there's always that flippant, well, we've been told by XYZ that they've migrated from X to Y before, and it's easy. There's nothing easy about a data migration. I wish there was. I wish one of us could find the magic formula. It's just really difficult, and it takes a lot of commitment from both sides. It's not something that any of us, a Eurolink, a Let MC, a Repit, a Propco, there's no magic fairy dust for a data migration. It needs both sides to really get involved in the process. And by doing that, you can make it smoother, but it's never easy and it's never straightforward.
The best you can hope for, isn't it, is where you can say, look, you're going to, Eurolink will minimize the disruption as much as possible to the business, isn't it? And that's really, the other thing is, though, it's also worth, we get caught between a rock and a hard place, because whilst you try to be realistic and, tell people, of course, that this isn't going to feel natural to you, it's going to be a bit of discomfort. It's also important not to go the other way, isn't it, as well? Because actually, if companies do work with you, it's not like there are, weeks, days or weeks of downtime per se, is it? It's just that it might take you a little bit of time to hit full usage capability and what you were expecting to get out of the package. But actually, real downtime is very rare these days, isn't it?
Yeah, and again, the most migrations, particularly the final migration, because of course, while we're on the topic of migrations, there'll be a number of migrations, test migrations leading up to that kind of go live scenario, and it's usually done out of hours, Simon, as you know. It's usually done on a weekend, depending on size of database. And the key is to minimize the disruption. There will be some disruption, but not masses of downtime. And I always sort of think, in my experience, if you look back at the projects that haven't gone as well as the ones that do, there's usually two factors involved. It was rushed, or there's been an expectation that everything comes from the service provider side. That's generally, in my experience, where things don't go as well as they otherwise could do.
I remember coming out, and they shall remain nameless, to go down with all my other skeletons in the cupboard. But I finished the demonstration after like 30 minutes, which is pretty unheard of, isn't it? In CRM, takes so long to show these days. And he was so happy clapping. He said, "This is amazing." He says, "I want it." And I walked out there thinking, why can't they all be like that? And of course, it ended up as an absolute disaster, because he thought it made the tea. He thought he could get rid of all his staff. He thought the data conversion would just magically plop into place, everything else there. So I learned a valuable lesson that day, that as desperate as I am to get to the pub for lunch, make sure you do, you get the expectations over. Well, look, we've spoken about some of the sort of. And it is important to know, though, isn't it? Because actually, if you said yourself, if somebody comes to you and tell you this is going to be absolutely plain sailing, you don't need to worry about anything, just leave it to us. That is probably the biggest warning sign you can get from talking to somebody pitching for your business.
It's the ultimate red flag for me.
Cool. Good. Well, that's lesson one. I want to do the Chris Watkins sort of valuable lessons thing here. I'm trying to learn how to be professional. You see, Chris, how can you make an agent's life easier? And I assume that's Veco, not just you personally.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's talk about work here. So I think from my point of view, just sort of reversing back slightly and jumping on the back of what was just spoken about. When I came into technology, I came into the supplier side from client side. It was quite quite a transition for me. And I thought to myself, okay, well, this is going to be a sort of not an easy transition, but certainly one which wouldn't take as much time as it sort of did. So I think when you have to sort of adjust to a completely different mindset when you're in the CRM world, when you're talking about software to clients. There isn't a magic button. There isn't a one way of doing things. Each client is totally different, whether that client is a single office, a 2-office network, a 5-office network, or a big national organization. Everyone is totally different in the way that they do things and their expectations. So, we had to sort of quickly adjust to the fact that when we're going in to see clients, we're talking to them about what reasons they need to move ultimately. So, I think whereas before, 10, 15 years ago, it was sort of a new revolution, or 20 years ago, maybe, it's a new revolution that people or agents would remove themselves from the card system, the record card system with pen and paper and their printed details on the photocopier, to actually using technology and actually having a computer screen on their desk. And it was, it's a completely sort of different concept, but we're in a time now where we're really having to get into the detail of clients' needs and aspirations and growth strategies in order to deliver a solution which is right for their business. And I think that's really what we've had to do in terms of adjusting our approach to this pitch nowadays.
I think your problem is, isn't it, these days, is that you talk about going back as I would talk in the good old days, where, as Rich will remember, you could almost sell the software on the fact, this will upload to my website and the right view. Well, again, that was that's it. And at some point, I don't remember when it was, and I can't remember if I actually helped create it, but we moved from being a state agency software, didn't we, to this more generic CRM. I think I nicked it from the Australians, actually, as I'm always loath to do. But that's the point these days, isn't it? It does, from getting away from the basic matching and mailing as it used to do, uploading to the web, basic reporting and everything else there, to genuine niche CRM software where actually you could sit in a room, it'd be painful, and just look at what these systems do over 2-3 days, and you still wouldn't see every element of what they're about.
Absolutely. So, I think, again, it's a matter of, looking back at these demonstrations and these consultation sessions that used to occur. It was a case of, showcasing all of these fantastic features and say, pal, here's the money shot. Here's the biggest selling point for you. But now it's more of much more of a consultative approach. So, we've looked at our sort of typical profile of agent because, from experience now, we've learned of what type of business that is going to be the best fit for us, and we're the best fit for them. So we're having to really sort of ask a lot more questions and get the whiteboard out, the flip chart, and start mapping out processes and understanding where we can fit in and where we're going to offer value. And when when we look at how we can make agents' lives easier, all that is relatively detailed. You don't want to put people off by going through that procurement process in sort of with a fine-tooth comb. But we just want to get the basics exceptionally right, and whether that's the right thing grammatically, maybe I can rephrase that slightly. But we want to we want to offer the basics, the basic solutions exceptionally well, and we've designed an approach and ultimately a product suite which I think complements that attitude.
And that's all backed up again by the people. It can never just be about. It strikes me at a time now where so many of the different CRM providers are maybe understandably just focusing on the software itself. It's all very trendy software as a service and everything else there, but they seem to be steering away from actually that most vital of elements of the people that are sat behind making it happen, that are able to sit with you and help you get the most out of that. And it strikes me that what Eurolink are doing at the moment is actually saying, hang on a minute, we see that as one of our USPs. And probably I would say is the right thing to do, because from your point of view, of course, Rich mentioned they're almost 200 years of knowledge, and there's Peter Pan though you may be, you've got lots of knowledge yourself, and especially when you're one of those rarer CRM companies that actually can specialize both on sales and lettings and accounts. That's where it's worth its weight in spades, isn't it? There, because as we can see, we'll say this offline, you can see some of those providers that are profess to go do lettings, and they're car crashes, aren't they?
I think it's fair to say we were certainly one of the pioneers of the one system. I mean, talking about those old days, and don't get me wrong, agents still have multiple software to deal with their day-to-day operations. But Veco, the brand, was established to create a one system, multidiscipline, every discipline in the residential sector. We set out, that was our mission at the time. We're gonna build the one system, and we're still working at that. We don't think, Simon, software's never finished. You just keep going. But I think a few things you both said there, making sure we do the basics really, really well, but also remembering that this is a people business. And you could almost argue that technology is the imposter, because we've seen what's happened with the onliners. They all thought they'd take 50% market share like that. No big deal, probably 6 to 8 months, 9 at a push. What have they got? 6% of the market? Yeah. I mean, that says a hell of a lot to me about the UK, about us as British people, and how we buy, sell, let and rent property. It is a people business. What we've got to do is complement those people with really good technology, great automation, customize things around those people and their teams and how they work and how they want to work. And that's the difference between 15, 20 years ago and today. You've got to be mobile, you've got to be customizable, configurable, you've got to have good client portals, you've got to have the full suite. But it must always be focused on the user.
Yeah. And one of the key things you said there as well, which made me laugh, thinking back on it again, is, it does never stand still. And when you look at some of these companies that wanted to go down the bespoke route, ordinarily they would have been influenced by, their own IT department or, an external company who would have convinced them, look, oh yes, it's probably going to cost a lot of money to, get it up. But once it's developed, oh yeah, you don't have to spend anything going forwards. And then things like GDPR lands on in your lap. They what? So we're not going to make the product GDPR enabled, and that's just one example, isn't it? So it's a classic example there where I see no future realistically for people wanting to go down the bespoke route, considering how much these packages have to do these days. So do you think, I've certainly been talking about it for a long time, is that because actually there's a lot of CRM packages out there that specialize in sales or lettings. There's very few that do the job for both, and I don't think there's a bigger win on the supplier side of your business that you can do by bringing those two, the sales and lettings, together successfully. Is there? I'm sure you would agree with that.
Absolutely. Not necessarily users doing both sales and lettings, because I think they're a skill set in their own. But certainly having one database and making sure that database is working hard for every area of your business. Particularly, obviously, a typical example is someone's going in, they want to let a property. They're asked what their current circumstances are. I'm in the process of selling. Where are you selling? I'm selling in Pimlico. We've got an office in Pimlico. The software automates the inquiry over to the Pimlico office. They're picking up, ringing that client. That's great CRM. But also, if that was me walking in, I'd be really impressed that they were so joined up.
Yes, rather than having to go through the whole process again, because all they've passed on is the basic details. Let's just deal with a couple of questions or observations that have come in. It appears that we've got a CRM salespeople assemble going on here, because the wonderful Carla Burnett has just popped in with morning, guys. The chat about data transfers is very familiar. Yeah, I think we've all been through that particular challenge, haven't we, when selling the software. Hi, Neil. Nice to see you on here. He talks about doing the basics well. doesn't really matter what business you're in, does it? It's absolutely, you get that right and you can build from there. But so many companies try to go for that kind of that big USP point, don't they? Again, going back to a lot of the bespoke packages, I think the principles of the business say, oh, we're going to do this amazing thing over here. And they forget just the absolute wealth of what you're talking about, Rich, 30 years of accumulated knowledge and best practice, and clients honing the package on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis is massive.
I think Sam at Home Search said it best on one of the Kerfuffle Spotlights. He talked about prop tech and new products solving problems that actually either don't exist or aren't that important to agents. And I think that's where, look, we're probably known as the steady eddies of the industry, and we'll take that reputation, because actually there'll be a lot of agents out there who want the steady, long established, knowledgeable company to help them get everything right and all those basics right and automated and in great shape.
Steady Eddie, as you said, gets a bad rep sometimes, but you don't want to be all exciting and on the edge of your seat and sort of a bit wide in two areas. I would suggest accountancy, a la Enron, and CRM software, because you get either of those wrong, and again, you're in a bad place, aren't you?
Sure.
So we've got Michelle here just pops in as well. Absolutely agree. Technologies to complement, not take over. Thanks, Michelle. Absolutely agree with that. So, Rich, obviously you have got that long-standing relationship with so many of those clients. What do you think? Why do you think they stay with you?
Well, I guess I'd like. Well, look, let's look at the crux of it. A typical product life cycle is probably around 7. Well, we know it's 7 to 11 years. It depends on the size of the agent, but every 7 to 11 years, every agent will consider their CRM, their accountancy systems, and their IT. So what do we need to do to make sure at that point of 7 to 11 years, when they are reviewing, why would they want to stay with us? I mean, look, we operate our business on the backdrop of 4 basic core values: being genuine with people, being straight with people. And I believe certainly we have a reputation for that. Being supportive of people, their companies, their users. Again, I think our stats speak for themselves. Last month, we of all of our support calls, we hit our under 30-minute fixed time, not response time, fixed time target, which is an internal SLA. Yeah. We got 9 out of 10 average feedback score from 70 responses. Now, getting anyone to respond to how good was a support call, I think that's an achievement in itself. Getting good scores is remarkable.
Just getting engagement with us.
Exactly. Off the back of, can you fix my problem? Yes, we can. Great. I want to move on. To then take the time, I think, is great. So for 70 users to go out of their way, I think that says something.
Thanks a lot.
Number 3 would be, I better remember these, hadn't I? Innovative. So we've got to innovate. If we get to the 7 to 11 years and we haven't moved on, we haven't innovated, then they're going to move on. However, if we have, and we have worked out solutions for portals and mobile working, for example, at the moment, then why would they leave? And finally, focused, keeping focused on what we do, not getting distracted by trying to build a fixed flow. We don't need to build a fixed flow. We can integrate with fixed flow. We don't need to build a referencing company. There are lots of great referencing companies. We don't need to build these parts of our product. Stick to what we do best. Be the be the center of that ecosystem of prop tech. I've rolled that line out a few times, but I genuinely believe it. It's our database sits in the middle of a whole plethora of platforms and products and apps, and that's where we need to keep focused.
I think that epiphany.
I think that's why people stay with us, and relationship, obviously, but that comes with being genuine with people.
Yeah, you get the goodwill from the relationship, don't you? That, if you ever need a bit of goodwill in the bank, it's something, and sometimes things are going to inevitably go wrong. That relationship gives you the time to fix the issue and move on to it, doesn't it? It is interesting, that point though, actually, that CRM companies did have a bit of an epiphany, didn't they? Because at one stage, you know, if we go back to the days of Vibra, it looked like the march was towards, we have to do everything ourselves. We do have to own all of the companies. And actually, at some point, you know, CRM companies woke up to the fact that, look, our job is just to integrate with the best-in-class providers. It isn't to actually have to do it all ourselves, isn't it? And I think that has been for the good of the industry on the whole. It's taken time, of course, because still, you know, just by integrating with third parties, there's still a lot of work there, isn't there? But actually, for the good of the agents, that's going to help them in the long run.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure of it. But that's where we're going. Look, Emma's role is very new to us. Emma's in her fifth week. So it'd be interesting to sort of hear from Emma her kind of first impressions of us. You know, do we follow our core values? I'm certainly hope. I'm putting myself on the spot here. I certainly hope we do. But also views on the industry.
Don't make this the shortest employment ever. Say the right things, no matter what.
Absolutely, no pressure.
Emma, your background is you were the auctions behemoth. I am sold.
I was last year, but prior to that, I was at the Guild as regional manager for the Guild. So I met an awful lot of independent agents and talked to them a lot about what they needed their systems to do.
Excellent. And so give us a flavour then. So what have you, getting in, finding the company, what has impressed you most about Eurolink and the Veco product?
That they're all so knowledgeable about what they do, and it's very much a driven team that everyone is working towards the same goals. And yeah, very innovative. The fact that the product is better now than it was 6 months ago, and I have no doubt will be better in 6 months' time than it is now. And it's great to be a part of that. It's really exciting.
That's great. And we've touched on it a little bit, but what's your perception of which agents will work best for you?
I think Veco works best for agents that are sort of multi-branch, multi-region, multi-branded, multi-disciplined. But more importantly, I think it's the ones who are looking to scale up. So they want a software that will help them grow, having that single software that's accessed by their different applications to be able to do what they need it to do. As you know, as we've covered a little bit, they need their software to do everything from marketing and matching and portals to the other end with lettings to arrears chasing to gas safety certificates and sales progression, everything in between. So by centralizing it as having that one software that does pretty much everything, but everyone is able to access it in the way that they need to access it for the format and what they need it to do for them, I think it makes managing it all so much simpler.
Yeah, excellent.
I think the scaling up point is a really good point, actually, because again, I assume that most business owners or shareholders or corporates, they want to grow, right? They want to scale up.
That's ultimately what we're doing it for, isn't it? Yeah.
What are we doing it for? So in 99% of cases, I guess that's what it's about. It's how can we help them scale? I guess I won't name names, but I can think of a client of ours. Two guys left a corporate who happened to be using our software, went on their own, didn't use our software, went with another software, got to 2 offices, realized it wasn't quite fit for purpose, wasn't quite doing what they needed it to do in the short and medium term. They're 25 offices now. They've got relationships with, I think it's nearly 45,000 properties. And we talk about relationships with properties, 15,000 active lettings relationships, 8,500 sales relationships. But the interesting thing with them is they're automating over 220 processes. Yeah. Now, I would say for anyone with any software, not just Veco, anyone who's watching this now or in the future, invest time first and foremost in your software, because you will get more out of it. I know that seems like an obvious thing, but think about Excel. We all have used Excel at one point in our lives.
You should see my Excel spreadsheets. They're incredible.
Genius. I would imagine they're multicolored.
Stephen Hawking couldn't sort out my sums.
but we scratched the surface with these amazing products. And it's the same with PropTech. Invest time, energy, effort into it, and some money, obviously, because training and making sure that you're getting the right consultation at the right time, you're keeping up to your updates. Emma said the software's better than it was 6 months ago. Do all of our clients know that? Possibly not. I'd like to think they do, but in reality, they probably don't. So, you know, if you want to scale up, yeah, we're probably one of a short list of people that you should see.
I want to get back to that automation point later on, because that was always my perception of one of your, you know, your USPs and strengths. But I think you're absolutely right there. My perception is, I remember a lot of CRM providers having to withdraw from pitches from agents when it got quite complex, and we were always, I know, very impressed with Veco's, first of all, sort of management, the empathy to be able to understand where the client was in the industry, what they needed to do, and then to reflect that back into the software itself, which of course then had the adaptability and customization to be able to cater for that. So I think that certainly rings true for me. Just to one point you mentioned before, actually, which I forgot to ask you on, that was really interesting. The point that people stick with their software every 7 to 11 years. I always used to quote that. I never knew where I got the stat from. I think it's just one of those urban myths. But we've been doing a lot of research ourselves, and it certainly reinforces what you're talking about there. Do you think agents themselves would be surprised that actually that is the sort of, if you like, length of tenure of a CRM package?
No, I don't think they would, because let's face it, who wants to move software? And I shouldn't be saying that as CEO of a software firm, but that's the reality. No one wants to move software if they can help it. However, if they've got improvements they can make, and again, this comes back to even at the early days, Emma's recognised that we need to go in and understand what is driving change, what they want to improve in their business.
Yeah.
And as I said, if it's scaling up, which it usually is, but if it's just being more, you know, boring things, compliance, client accounting, all that kind of dull, boring back end,
it saves you from going to jail.
It saves you from going to jail. And yeah, I suppose that's quite important. Yeah. But I think
10 years hard labour.
you want to run a good business, don't you? And again, we all strive to run a really good business, and I think that's why again we're probably worth a place on the short list. I'd like to think.
We're trying to really find at the moment to counteract that kind of stickability, because actually we haven't published it yet, but we'll obviously highlight it to you guys and indeed our Kerfuffle membership, that it is absolutely reinforcing that length of, you know, well over half of agents have had their systems for more than 5 years, and actually still a sizable proportion more than 10 years. What has been really interesting is if you were looking at that almost scientifically, you'd think, well, okay, you'd expect then if people have stayed in those packages for that period of time, there'd be a level of satisfaction. The corresponding Net Promoter Score surveys that we did on the back of it showed exactly the opposite. They were staying with these packages on the whole, you know, for a long period of time, but they still weren't overly happy with it. And one of the things we've been trying to look at Kerfuffle is how do we actually best demonstrate the opportunity cost of actually not moving, because we know it's a big decision, don't we? We've all established that it is big to, you know, say we're going to change our software. We want to make this software because we really want this to be the last software package that we choose. But what's just as important is there is a cost for you not making that decision, which you're probably not aware of. You know, week on week, some of the functionality, whether that's automation or the other, you know, lead referral things you do, could be making you and would be making you, you know, saving you time, earning you money. And it's important that we actually start to get that into principals' heads, isn't it? That actually, you know, you need to be thinking about this, because week by week goes by, you're actually losing.
I think if I can just sort of answer that, I think that you know, about 3 years ago, when we started looking at what we were offering, how much value that we were giving to clients, you know, we really had to sort of pay attention to some of the really sort of unique aspects of what Veco can do. And I think primarily one of the, you know, the primary sort of aspects of that was automation. So just coming in about the automation side of things. You know, we found that it was growing and growing, the demand for agents to utilize email correspondence going out automatically, removing manual intervention as much as they possibly could, just to ensure that they can be as efficient as possible, was becoming, you know, more and more in need. So again, about 3 years ago, we designed just reversing back ever so slightly, I think that it can be, and I'm not too sure whether it's entirely across the board, but it can be quite confusing in terms of the costing aspect of CRM software. Yeah. So what we tried to do is we tried to have a very simple logic that can be applied across all of our clients' databases, and we just represent that when they grow, we grow. And essentially the commercial element would be, you know, sort of corresponding and a fair, reasonable, justified, you know, sort of measurement. Yeah. So when we did that, when we looked at the pricing model, we also decided to offer value in the form of sort of more of a tiered arrangement. And you know, so you might have a agent who might not necessarily be ready to take on a client portal, or might not necessarily want to have consultation days included in their package, or they might not want insights which, you know, allows them to sort of interrogate their data in a bit more of a detailed fashion with sort of more visually attractive widgets. So what we did was we obviously pigeonholed or sort of isolated these service packages, and I think the main primary reason again was to drive automation. So we created a role off the back of that called customer success, and what we're finding is that majority of the time that we're sort of focusing on is to try and get people to utilize that automation side, and it's become an incredibly popular way of you know, making the most of their software, and it's been a very worthwhile project for us.
I think that's fascinating though as well, to make, you know, it sounds so obvious, isn't it? Only giving the client what they need. You know, don't be distracted by the shiny baubles and everything else there, and certainly not have to pay for stuff that they don't use, because that's when again that expectation level problem comes in, doesn't it? And being forced to pay for this, but really only need 50% of the package. So I think that tiering is a very clever way and a very common way of doing it these days, isn't it? I haven't seen a better way of delivering this out there to the marketplace, especially after, as you just highlighted there, I'd spent so many decades complicating the CRM charge.
I didn't want to say it, Simon, but you know.
Simon, we've all been guilty of that. But I think the point that Chris is making, it's a good one, is just there's 3 tiers. Choose the tier that suits your business best. What do you want? What do you want out of us? The other thing that we struggle with is the ROI on automation is pretty obvious. Yeah. You know, if you've got 10 repetitive business processes that are being done by a person or group of people, and we can automate that, and it can save half of their day, then that's an absolute rock solid return on investment, and you can gauge it and process it and justify it. But we still found that asking for an upfront figure of X was a barrier. So we've taken the barrier out by including it in the tiers, and knowing that we then have got that longer term relationship, we can justify it. We can put the cost and effort in up front to know that we'll get a return on investment as well, because it's a partnership, right?
Of course, because then it's really difficult for a lot of different suppliers out there to claim 100% that ROI is theirs. You know, a lot of the time it might have been influenced by somebody else, but actually with yourselves, you know, those automation tools, no, they're Eurolink, they're Veco, and you can put your hat on that, can't you? So that's why that's really important.
I think, Chris, when you put the questionnaire on the website a couple of years ago, and again, this is generic stuff. This could work for any provider, but more importantly, it works for agents. We just ask a simple question: how much do no-shows cost you?
Yeah, love it.
You know, tell us how big your company is, how many offices you've got, how many viewings you do on average, and we'll tell you how much no-shows are costing you. You know,
Is this a no-show calculator, Chris? You had a demo from us 7 years ago.
It was a real life problem that was needing to be resolved, Simon.
Yeah, good. I love all that. I love it.
The point of our approach, though, Sam, which is what I think you were saying, was our approach is slightly different. Not saying it's better, it's just different. So our approach is to understand that common problem, as you've identified and others have identified. Our approach is, well, if you now know what it's costing you, how can we improve that? How can we fix that? And automation is the way, because by then automating all your communication, your responses, as well as incoming responses, then it's going to save you a lot of money, because it's going to save you that time and effort, because you don't have to rely on an individual to manage that. So again, the point one of the guys who was viewing said, yeah, absolutely, technology should be supporting, not taking over. That's an example.
It's a word that keeps coming back into my mind is qualified. Everything you seem to do is, qualify whether the client's right for you and vice versa. Qualify and test for things like the data conversions and making sure they're in this respect, qualify and be able to literally prove the ROI stats is whereas most people just try to go for the sales spin, you are seemingly obviously, willing to say, no, we can deliver on this, and this is how we're doing it. It's a much more scientific method. We've got another couple of comments here. We've got Ryan's being a little bit bitchy there, so we don't want it to turn into a full fest. But and then we've got it really is turning into. You're all going to disappear while Mark Bevan's War and Peace comment comes up on. Sorry, we've got rid of you here, but let's see. So Mark Bevan, CRM expert, it's safe to say that during my time at Repeat, we were targeting agents to get them on the client account side of things. What always came up was a big brick wall when talking to clients using Veco. The amount of automation and uniqueness was second to none and a total non-starter. From my point of view, we're proud to be integrated with Veco and love working with Chris and the team, enhancing the integration and sharing knowledge. The account management side of Veco is extremely thorough, and then he falls. I don't know. StreamYard cut him off halfway through, but I bet it was going to be brilliant at the end. Anyway, there. What I do like, by the way, just like there at the end, you can tell he was taught by me. Did you see that phrase there on the client account side of things? That's me being classically vague about whatever that was.
It's over there.
I think that says a lot, actually. He knows what he's talking about there, Mark, as well. And it is, once you have a CRM system ensconced, especially with sales and lettings and accounts, but the big one, with automation is there. How do you unravel from that? So that's vital.
I think one of the points as well, sorry, just touching on what you were saying, Rich, is that, we had that questionnaire go out, and it was so relevant at the time. The volume of viewing inquiries that were coming through, and requests, and time spent on sort of wasted journeys, unnecessary phone calls, etc., was just so prominent. But now, and I don't want to necessarily bring in this topic, but sort of post-pandemic, it might not necessarily work for them. So, what we've been doing, and what we tend to do from the account management side, is that we're speaking to a lot of the clients about what solutions that they've now put in place, whether this is, sort of greater qualification process at the beginning, adding additional layer of virtual tours as opposed to, jumping straight into sort of a viewing straight up. Clients are sort of adapting and changing their needs for automation, and because it's very, very dynamic in terms of what we can do and what we can spec and how we can deliver it. We find ourselves not saying no to anything, and I know that sounds a bit weird, and I shouldn't say it in front of Rich because you'll get the but we find ourselves always looking for a way to actually deliver on what they want and what their need is at this moment in time. And it's just very interesting sort of use of the business development function, the ongoing relationship, the referral aspect of things. It all works hand in hand.
So that's validated, by the way, one of your many reviews, which are all very highly rated on your landing page on Kerfuffle. This one's from John Bryant from Ocean Home, great agency. They're down in Bristol, aren't they? They're about 10 offices, if I remember rightly.
Yeah,
automating the task, so compliance is not a headache. Well, that's, if you can save anyone that compliance element there, you're doing well, aren't you? And off the bat. So look, I mean, the most obvious thing is you're not the only guys out there, Chris. What's the where do you differ? Where do you stand out from the CRMs? You don't have to name them, but I mean, we spoke about, I think, this ability to hone in, to be more more customizable. But what else is there apart from obviously this key automation point as well?
I think just reversing back to what you were saying about being the core, the sort of the central point of an agency business. Yes, I think that essentially a CRM and software application but it should work and complement the people who are in the business, and what we've tried to do is design a way of sort of offering value throughout the whole journey. So so right at the beginning, let's look at what we can offer. So we've got an Alexa app right at the front end of the business, which goes straight into a client's database. Now you can obviously get all the information on the website, and I won't live demo it here because it will be fatal, no doubt.
Come on, Chris, I dare you.
No, I couldn't do it, Rich, not today.
I've seen you do it live, but maybe not.
Hang on a minute, because obviously now you're starting to get into, you're starting to tweak my prop tech credentials here. So you can essentially talk to Alexa and ask it for reporting elements, or
no, you as a user. So say you are an applicant looking for a property in a area, as a Veco client. A Veco client can display or have their properties available on an Alexa app. So if an applicant is sitting in their front room, let's say, with their family, and they've decided that they need to move house, or they want somewhere bigger, etc., they can say, Alexa, show me sales properties, and then you can drill down into the agent. You give a sort of a high level criteria in terms of bedroom size and price range, and it will deliver you some results. If you've got a screen, it will also, offer you the main image and a text, the summary, full description text as well. So it's brilliant.
You've got a minority report.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The stats on voice are just undeniable. You have to be there, and we were lucky enough to be able to coin the phrases. Properties to let and properties for sale. I think, properties for sale and properties to let on Alexa. But again, that came out of, again, back to the core values. We've got to be innovative. We had a 2 week, I think it was 2 to 3 week gap for a particular developer, and he was waiting on some endpoints from another developer. So I said, go and research this, and he came back 3 weeks later with this idea. And we said, let's run with it. So I know we've given out a few Alexa docs to some of our clients and let them demonstrate it. It might sound a little bit of a gimmick, but actually, again, the stats for voice, like I say, undeniable. But also, are there little differentiates that could help the agent just get that? Can they get that additional couple of instructions by being a little bit different to the next person or the next company?
Having that on your, in your armory when you're going out on evaluation, to say that the properties are accessible across not only sort of social and digital platforms, but also now voice accessible is, I think, it might not be necessarily an instruction winner, but at least it gives you some extra.
It shows the direction you're going in. Secondly, as well, obviously with lettings being a younger demographic on the whole, that's there. Obviously, my kids I know would now only use Veco because, Christ, they talk to Alexa more than they talk to me. But it's just, it is the way, it's the convenience element again there, isn't it? Why I got really excited there was, again, when I went to on one of my many jollies to Australia, and I listened, Josh Fegan, obviously industry guru, and he actually unveiled at the ARIC conference over there, and he said, this is the where CRM needs to go. And he just had the phone up on there, and he said, show me my listings for the month, and show me my top 10 people to ring. And it was actually Siri read it back to him, and I've never heard 5,000 people without literally saying a thing. And of course, I was back then head in hands, because I thought, how's he launching this? Now, he did say straight afterwards, that's not quite there yet. But it was a sign that Josh was thinking, and this is going back a good few years, 3 or 4 years now. He knew that is exactly what people are going to want to be doing. And if we're not thinking about that now, we're going to get caught behind the wave, because somebody else will come up with it, won't they?
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I think in terms of, or just going back to your original question, there's a number of reasons why we should open up discussions with clients. Really, there's no point in me doing a sales pitch at all, because ultimately it's down to the drivers in the in the agency business. Do business owners need something resolved? If so, then it's worth looking at a shortlist, and hopefully, again, as Rich said, hopefully we're on it.
What do you see as the best way of an agent engaging with you to find out that critical point about whether, Eurolink's right for them, the Veco software can be customized for them, and of course, them right for you? Are we still back to the days of just having an initial 2-3 hour meeting to sort of sit that through, go through? How do you find it works best?
Well, we're going to do a 2-step process. So that's the plan. So the first step would be I would go and visit them in their offices and find out more about them and see whether or not I think that we would be a fit for them. Yep. And then the second step would be they would then come to our head office here in Leatherhead and have a full demo, meet the team, see how we work as an operation, and see whether or not they think we fit with them. And I think that 2-step process will make sure that we've got that consultation done, so that we can scope out everything to minimise the amount of drama that we'll have when we start.
I was being a bit Paxman-esque there, you see, because I do love the two-stage demo. I think actually for CRM, it is where you get the best bang for your buck. Investigative on the first one, not wanting to waste time, but finding out, and then being able to actually show people in the second stage what you've learned about them in the first is, I would always consider best practice for, best practice, because you'll find a lot of, the software, the CRM providers will not want to go down that route, because they'll be telling their salespeople, nail it in the first one. But all those horrible points we spoke about in terms of expectation gaps and everything else come to the fore when that happens, don't they? So that's good. Is that, by the way, is that a free consultation, or do they have to pay for that initial consultation?
At the moment, it's a free consultation. We'll have to see how it goes.
It will always be a free consultation. Look, it's a win-win. It's time very well invested on our part, and on behalf of the prospective client. Because, like I said, we could get to the end of that short process and say, look, it's not right for you. I'm
going to say, if there is a charge, could I make it and then not tell you about it? But that seems a bit the kerfuffle tax.
Yeah.
Okay, I really like. I like that approach. And Rich, you spoke about it right at the outset. Who do you integrate with, and who have you got on the horizon, and what is your policy? Do you know there's a lot of fanfare out at the moment about sort of open APIs and all sorts of different ways of integration. What's the Veco policy in terms of integrations?
I think we're very picky to a degree, or we have been in the past very picky over who we integrate with. I think it's probably right to say it's 95% client driven.
Okay.
And the reason why I say 95% is because that's where our drivers come from. If we tried to integrate with everyone, it just wouldn't work. Obviously, you can provide APIs. So at the moment, we integrate with well over 100 different organizations.
Wow.
And that could be anything from a bank through to Rightmove. But we integrate with well over 100 organizations. And that is only going to grow. But our strategy in the future is not to try and be everything to everyone, but to look at the core periphery services and provide APIs for those core periphery services. Yeah. So, for example, referencing, we would provide a referencing API.
Yeah.
and then anyone, because again, people's choices are their own, aren't they? We can't drive anyone down a particular route. We can influence, or we can try and influence. So, for instance, our preferred online payment partner is SagePay.
Yeah.
There are a number of very good reasons that I won't bore everyone with, but certainly if you're a letting agent, it's the right solution, because other solutions like WorldPay, they just don't do what we need to do, because you might be taking commissions off things, for example. So there's ways we can influence and use our 200 years of experience to advise, but ultimately we are driven by our clients. But yeah, in short, the strategy is we've been very picky. We do integrate with well over 100 companies. However, I think the way forward, in my opinion, is to be supplier agnostic, if you like. So provide the API for the need for the service.
So the days of kind of a CRM just having one preferred supplier, you don't think that's really, unless there's an outstanding provider in that field, those days are gone?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we've just taken on board what we call a partnership consultant. So that is someone who can talk to our clients. It's Chris Davis, who many people will know in the industry. Chris Davis can talk to our clients now, or prospective clients potentially, as part of the pre-sale process, but our existing clients, and say, explain what partnerships we have, of which some of them, for instance, may be income generating for our clients. So a typical one is obviously things like utilities. So utilities, be it Tilly, or you say what's coming up, we've just signed a deal with Itria. They don't only provide an income stream, but they'll manage all the void periods, which is the pain of everyone's life. Who wants to manage a void period? No one. Get a company to come and do it for you and do it well. And by the way, we'll help share some data in all the right ways, and hopefully you'll get an additional income stream from that. And again, recurring income is what we're all striving for. We strive for it as a software house, but you look at the agents that are selling at the moment. The ones that are selling, a big chunk of that sale is a multiple of their recurring revenues.
Yeah.
If we can help increase those revenues, so then obviously we're adding value.
Win-win, isn't it? It's all around, and you only have to look at those companies that are obviously long and loyal clients of yours, how their managed portfolios have grown over the years, haven't they? It's staggering. And Chris, what's new with you then? What have you got you can tell us? What's happening?
Well, I mean, obviously Emma's come on board now. So what we've done over the last certainly 6 months or so is, like everybody, we've had to sort of regroup, adjust to the new environment, and sort of work a strategy going forward. And I think that, obviously bringing Emma on board and bringing Chris on board, it allows us to be a lot more approachable for specific areas of the business, as opposed to sort of being a master of everything all in one department. So I think from a sort of a company perspective, I think that's really where we are at the moment. We've spent a lot of time on strategy, a lot of time on profiling in terms of the right agent for us, and and essentially that's why Emma's here. She's got incredible amount of experience and knowledge and everything that goes with it. And her phone's always on.
You just literally said 24/7. That's okay. There's commitment from I do think that's a really good point. Is I encourage everybody really have a chat with Emma, just on the phone first of all, or obviously when we're allowed to meet up there. But I think as well a really sensible thing would be, if you are unhappy, as so many people are, with their CRM providers, and they've been knocked back from a particular automation request or something like that, it'd probably be a really good idea, wouldn't it, Emma, to reach out to you in the first instance and say, look, this is what we're trying to achieve. Is this something that potentially Eurolink could help us out with? And that then it will help open their eyes to what's possible with you, at least, won't it?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we want them to do.
Or at least show how batshit mental they are if they're trying to do the impossible, which is, again, is it possible? But at least you'll find out without actually having wasted too much time, won't you?
Well, we hope so. Although don't mind wasting the time, as long as we end up with the right result.
That's exactly the right business answer I was looking for, Emma. Well done. That's straight away. Business 101. Rich, another CRM. It's all CRM people here. Grady Rich looking well, top man, also on the industry best hair list. See you at a bar soon, I hope. So that sounded a bit more like that should have really been a message rather than.
I've embraced the lockdown hairdo, so I thought this might be useful just to keep it under wraps. So I think
you've really got a Richard Gere thing going on there. Well, I've gone for David Bellamy for those people old enough to remember. So thank you, Jez, another fantastic company out there as well. And I think it's really interesting. You've had three comments there from people who ostensibly have been competitors, are competitors. And we haven't heard. I promise I haven't been deleting the ones that have been. There actually haven't been any nasty comments, which should give agents great comfort, really, because normally there is some, if you were being nice, banter or at least negativity, isn't there, around other companies?
We've never done that. Or certainly during my time, we've never slagged anyone off. It doesn't pay you to do that. If for whatever reason someone moves on, how can we help? It shocks people when you ask them, but it's just the right approach. And if we, as I keep saying, if we keep sticking to our core values, we won't go far wrong.
Yeah, but it was just so much fun winding people up. That's why
we can do it in a bar 1-to-1 and rip each other apart. That's a totally different.
But then again, the fact I'm not in the CRM space tells you everything you need to know there. Okay, Chris, I believe, again, fantastically, you've got a deal for our lovely Kerfuffle members as well there to help them see the wonders of Veco. Do you want to just give us an overview on that, if that's okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just start off by saying I think Emma might want to have a sort of a chat about the actual deal. But again, just on the point of the tiers, the product options, we've designed an offer around that. Really, I think that it's a really good way to, again, get it out there, get it introduced to that concept into a lot of businesses, wherever they are in their decision-making cycle. So, Emma.
Yeah, so that's very simple. So if they come through Kerfuffle, then they'll get upgraded to the next tier up.
Perfect.
Very simple.
For the first 12 months, let them try these products that, like you say, they might not know that they want yet. But let's try and encourage that. And if we encourage that through your platform, then that's great.
Brilliant. Well, I encourage everyone to get in contact, obviously. What's your sort of best practice advice? Do you advise people to start off on a lower tier and add as they feel comfortable and are seeing value, or is it give the top tier a try? And I mean, can they downgrade as well as upgrade, or is it?
It's best fit, Simon. Best fit. What's the best fit for you? What are your needs at this time? And that could be at the outset. It could be 6 months in, 6 years in. As I keep saying, as long as we keep innovating, as long as we keep moving our products forward, hopefully people will only ever want to move up. But of course, if business is contracting, then we can work with that as well.
And we just need to point out as well, I was told to point this out, it is just for new clients only, because obviously we've taken a point in time, haven't we, on this?
We have, yeah.
Cool, excellent. Well, look, I mean, it's a little, just to get rid of Chris again. Not that I want to, because obviously his hair's fantastic. Actually, in fact, look at that. I get to see his hair still even in there.
Just about yeah.
Intuitive software, easy to navigate, and most importantly, great service from support teams. Price isn't the cheapest, but also isn't the most expensive. That lovely sweet spot. Pound for pound, the price is fair for the product and service. We also use their IT department to our excellence, and the reason I decided to use Veco by Eurolink in the first place. Matt Whalen from Pillars Estates. Thank you for that, Matt, for putting that in there. And then again, the simplicity to navigate. Kevin Gibbs from TLC Property Sales and Management, and ultimately the UI and simplicity to use a CRM product ordinarily determines how successful it's going to be, because we can have all the data fields we want in there, can't we? But actually, if it's not easy to use, then you won't be able to get the data in there that you wanted to power the referrals and to power the integration that makes it success. So that, again, can't really be overstated, can it?
No.
Guys,
Probably something people don't know, and Matt's pointed it out there, is we also have an IT support arm to our business called Evolution IT. Okay. We typically look after estate agents. That's obviously where our knowledge is. But obviously, as an IT support company, we can support any SME in or around the M25. So again, there might be people out there who just want a bit of advice, just want to bounce some IT ideas off someone who's in the know without any angle or any any upside from our side of things. We always help our own clients out with that, whether they use that service with us or not. But it's there to be used, and we've got a great team on the IT support desk.
So that offers up the potential for a complete one-stop shop if you wanted to have that all tied together. Yeah, great.
Well, how many hours, days, weeks, months have we all wasted trying to work out? Is it an IT issue? Is it a software issue? We've solved that problem.
If I'm honest, Rich, I ordinarily know quite quickly it was something to do with me, and then we just track back from that.
Shortcut it. Just shortcut it.
Guys, absolutely fantastic you've joined us. We've done well over an hour now. Really, really interesting. What I think would be really interesting in the coming months is actually if we get a few clients on as well. I think to talk about some of those automations could be a really interesting angle there. And again, everybody go to the landing page for Eurolink, or you can search on Veco as well. See what other people are saying about them. Obviously, they've got more information on there. If you are interested in anything they've got to say, click on the I'm interested button, or of course, drop the guys a line directly and just mention the wonderful pink beast that is Kerfuffle, and they will help you out, as they have been so kind to do today. And the Richard Gere of the industry has just put on his hat, which signifies to me that we've done all right. Thank you very much, Emma, Richard, Chris. Fantastic. Hope to catch up with you all soon.
Nice one. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks everyone for listening.